Buenos dias. Ah, muchas gracias. That's the extent of my Spanish. My name is Coach Randy. Can you please say Buenos dias, Coach Randy? Thank you very much. I am very happy to be here. Diana and Priska, thank you both so much. Walter and Ferdinand, thank you so much. Fernando, thank you so much for helping get this together today. I had the pleasure of probably meeting many of your kids when I was back there in San Roberto a couple weeks ago. Does everybody have a note card? Everybody have a note card?
No, we don't.
No note cards?
Note cards.
All right, no problem. No problem.
They all have their cells, so they can take notes on their cells.
Perfect, no problem. That's perfectly fine. I wanted to kind of give you a sense of why we're here, and thank you for coming. I was spent time with many of the leaders, the older students. I met all the players. We talked about being good sportsmen. We talked about pride, and I want to talk about what it means about parents with pride and focusing on that. By a show of hands, how many of you, do you want to make sure, how many of you are parents? Or Padres? Madres and Padres. How many of you have Madres and Padres? All right. When you go to sports events, how many of you see kind of those crazy parents from the sidelines? You ever see those crazy parents from the lot? Those are local parents on the sidelines? Yeah, no, they're not you though, right? They're not you? Okay, good. Just in case, right? And so what I wanted to do is kind of walk you through a few pieces here. I'm trying to figure out now what's happening with my computer, right? Our goal for today, and what I want you to do, is understand the most important thing we want to create are better athletes and better leaders, regardless of age. So from this point forward, when I say better athletes, I'd like for everybody in the audience to say better leaders. Better athletes. Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Excelente. This is kind of an interactive piece. I also might ask you to give me 2 claps. Can you give me 2 claps? You can do a little better. I know it's really 2 claps. 2 claps. Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
So if you would, please be here. It's not going to take overly long. We'll be done probably by 9:15, 9:30 the latest. If you do have cell phones, please put your cell phones on mute, but feel free to take notes. So please be here. Next thing, can everybody that's in the room please cross your arms like this? Right? Everybody there? All right, now cross your arms the opposite way. How does it feel when you cross your arms the opposite way? Little weird, little awkward? See? It's very likely, as I talk about being a parent in the stands, it might make you feel awkward. Real curious, by a show of hands, how many of you had children, when your children were born with a user's guide? Anybody? No user's guide? No blueprints? Most of us learn how to parent either by trial and error or by watching our own parents. And since there's no real guide, the hard part is how do we learn how to parent? And in particular, how do we parent our kids in sports? I address what is called the white elephant in the room, meaning that it's not bad parents, but sometimes we do at sports is say things and do things that may not necessarily, we kind of lose our minds. We say we got caught up in the emotions of the game or the sport. So please be here, be open. And at some point you might say, yabbit. Can everybody please say yabbit?
Yabbit.
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 Yeah, but is those kind of things where you'll say, yeah, but coach, you don't understand our situation. Yeah, but coach, this situation is going on. Yeah, but coach, you don't know my player. My player is going D1. My kid's going to college and playing pro. So there's a chance to say yeah, but. You certainly feel free to say yeah, but if you want to. And at the very end, we'll take some questions. So don't be afraid to disagree. Last thing is, I'd like for you to be honest. You can see two pictures on the screen, correct? See?
Yeah.
Does anybody in the audience out there, does any of you like to have a cough? Do you guys like coughs? I don't think so, right? Coughs aren't fun. By a show of hands, how many of you go to the doctor and take cough syrup when you have a bad cough? Right? And that's because we take medicine. Now, does anybody like taking medicine?
No.
Probably not. But we do so to help ourselves feel better. Now, I'm not saying anybody is sick. This is more like a metaphor. But I do work and travel all throughout the world. And I spend a lot of time with parents who kids are 7, 8, 9 years old. We just kind of go crazy. And so I'm kind of like cough syrup. We need to feel better. And we see a situation happening that needs to be addressed. So kids can honestly have a lot more fun. So we can create better athletes.
Better leaders.
Aha, good work. Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Now you can also say, whoa, coach. So on the count of 3, please say, whoa, coach. 1, 2, 3.
Whoa, coach.
Again, 1, 2, 3.
Whoa, coach.
A whoa, coach is when you're in the moment, you're like, whoa, coach, what you just said either went over my head, doesn't make sense, and needs some clarity. And if that's the case, please say, whoa, coach, and either Diana or Priska can come to you, and we can ask a question in the moment. Otherwise, if you want to, you can write it down, we can come back to it later. So count of 3, practice whoa, coach again. 1, 2, 3.
Whoa, coach.
Whoa, coach. 1, 2, 3.
Whoa, coach.
Can I get 2 claps? Can I get 2 claps? Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
So what I'd like for you to do now is take a couple minutes and on your cell phones, and I would like for you to write down what your top 3 goals are for your players, for your kids. What are your top 3 goals when it comes to your children in sports? I put some up here on the board. Is one of your goals to become a good athlete, to learn teamwork, to win, have increased self-confidence, learn how to deal with adversity, physical fitness, learn life lessons, have fun, develop a positive work ethic, earn a college scholarship, become more disciplined, or some other idea? So take a quick moment and write down your top 3 goals. Who needs more time? I need more time? I had to get my train whistle. Diana, Priska, I need my train whistle. Better athletes. Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Thank you so much. So now if you could, take your top 3 and the person to your left or right or in front of you, can you please share your top 3 goals with that person in the room? Share your top 3 goals with the person sitting next to you, the person behind you, real quickly. Give about a minute to have that conversation. Who needs more time? Anybody need more time? All right. Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Now, what I'm going to ask is at each site, Priska, if you could just ask some of the parents some of their top three, and Diana on your site, if you can ask some of the parents their top three, you'll then report back to me. Is that okay?
Top three. Teamwork, self-confidence, deal with adversity. Okay. Have fun. A lot of you don't have fun.
Trabajo en equipo,
Teamwork, increase self-confidence.
ganar becas, aprender lecciones de vida, afrontar adversidad, self-confidence, okay, condición física, learn teamwork, aprender en equipo, have fun, divertirse, disciplina, aprender a trabajar en equipo. Did you hear, Randy? Or so it's teamwork, have fun, get scholarships, life lessons, discipline, and learn how to deal with adversity.
Excellent. Any more, Diana?
Maybe.
All right. Great. Priska, how about you? What did you find out on with your group?
Over here, I think it was most people agreed on having fun was one of the main goals, as well as learn teamwork and learning how to deal with adversity. I think those were the top.
All right, both groups, give me 2 claps. 2 claps. Real quick, Diana, what are the age of the players, of the parents in the room?
¿De qué grados? 5 años, 4 años. 5, 6, 7, 4, and some older.
All right. And Priska, how about you? The age?
We have 5, mainly 5, 6, 7. We have a couple of olders, I think 8, 9.
All right. Excellent. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Real quick, by a show of hands, anybody in our audience play sports in college? Anybody play sports in college? All right. How about any parents play professional sports that are in the audience?
Jugadores profesionales.
Are there any parents that played professional sports? All right. Now, by show of hands, who here loves to win? Right? By show of hands, who here hates to lose? Anybody hate to lose more than you love to win? All right? That's the kind of coach I am. My sport is softball and baseball, and I often joke about the seriousness of playing with my girls. And, you know, when I play Monopoly with my girls, I own them. I just own all the properties. I make them pay up. I don't care if they cry because I hate losing. And I kind of say that in tongue-in-cheek and sarcasm, but it's very important to understand coming from a parent's perspective about winning and losing. As parents, what I'd like for you to do right now, I want you to write down 3 to 5 things that are not in your control as a parent in the stands. Take a quick moment and write down 3 to 5 things that are not in your control as a parent when you're sitting in the stands.
Cosas que no están en su control cuando están en las gradas. Cosas que no pueden ustedes controlar.
El carácter.
So Chris and Diana, you want to kind of facilitate a quick conversation and give me some thoughts.
El marcador.
¿Qué es lo que no tenemos control? Si nosotros estamos viendo un partido de nuestros hijos desde las gradas, ¿qué no podemos controlar de lo que sucede en el partido? Que se frustren, No podemos controlar que se frustren, no podemos controlar el resultado, no podemos controlar que participe dentro del juego. ¿Qué más no podemos controlar? La concentración que tengan los niños, verlos desmotivados o frustrados. Okay, so over here we cannot control our kids' attitude or frustration.
Excelente.
We cannot control the results.
Yes.
Not control the results, and I mean just the kids' attitude.
Excellent. Very good. Excellent. 2 claps. 2 claps. And Priska, how about on your side? What's
It's
not in their control?
basically the same. I would add, we can't control the other parents. We can't control the weather, the referee. Obviously, what the score is at the end of the game.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that are not in our control as parents. We cannot control the outcome. Can we control whether or not our kids get scholarships to college? No. Can we control whether or not our kids get certain kinds of playing time? No. There are pretty much 2 things that are in control, whether this is a parent, a coach, even as players. The 2 things that are in our control, first is our attitude, and the second is our effort. Meaning, if we go in with the right kind of mindset, the right kind of attitude, it'll impact our behavior and effort in the stands. And when we have young kids, we get very concerned. And since there's no blueprint on how to be a parent, we can often let things get out of control in terms of what is really not in our control. And part of today is to talk about what is the best way for a parent to learn how to parent from the stands if the only thing in your control is effort and attitude. Can I get 2 claps? Can I get 2 claps? Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
I'm just making sure you're not falling asleep. So by show of hands, how many of you believe that the sports your kids play can provide valuable life lessons? Right? Is there any parent that does not believe, just curious, that sports can provide life lessons? What I want to do is focus on what really matters in terms of probably the real reason why. You talk about having fun, teamwork, getting better, improving, is focus on the concept of life lessons, because that is ultimately what, since so many things are not in our control, we can control is how our kids learn the life lessons through sports. And so one thing we have are called bully parents, right? And bully parents happen in the stands. Bully parents focus on other spectators. They sometimes focus on their own child, or they scream at the coach. A story I share, actually I do this in person, what I do with parents, if you can imagine being at a soccer game. Have any of you ever been to a kid's soccer game before?
Yes.
Kid's soccer game, right? There's always one parent that's, as the kids are playing, one parent screaming, shoot, 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 right? And that parent, right, is probably the parent of the child that has the ball. Then further down the sideline, you have another parent screaming, pass, 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 right? And that's usually the parent of the kid that's open. Meanwhile, a coach is screaming, carry the ball down the field, carry the ball down the field, carry the ball down the field. When it comes to that player, that 5, 6, or 7-year-old boy or girl, who is that player supposed to listen to? And the hard part is we want the player to listen to the coach. And even though we think as parents we're helping from the stands, we're actually interfering with the overall coaching because your kids are very familiar to your voice. As a matter of fact, there's something called the cocktail effect, which is a study done on research on people's behavior when they go into a large event like a cocktail hour or a bar or some kind of party, that we're so in tune with our own name that it can be very loud on there, but yet someone can mention your name or say your name, whether it's at you or not, and you will hear it. Same thing goes in sports when it comes to your kid playing sports. Your kids are so aware of your voice, they will automatically simply forget about anything else and only listen to you. And that's the hard part about being a coach, is when parents coach from the stands. In addition, sometimes parents really get angry at one of the biggest targets, which are officials. So I'm going to show you a video of a 7th grade basketball game that happened recently. I found on YouTube. That seems to be more of occurrence when parents get really upset with officials. And again, that was a 7th grade. So we're talking kids who are 11, 12 years old basketball game, which in the big picture of life is pretty meaningless. But we as parents get so concerned about being fair and something going on, we have a hard time controlling our emotions. And I want to focus that the big picture of parents is really to let kids have fun, right? And become better athletes. Better athletes. We have found that as kids age, the number one reason why kids continue to play sports is because it's fun. The second biggest reason why kids continue to play sports is to be with their friends. The third reason is often because they want to get better, improve, be part of a team, and compete. Those are the 3 most important things. Winning is not in their top 5 of playing sports. It often becomes winning because of focus from the two core pieces that involve sports. Coaches and parents make the appearance that it's all about winning. And we have to be very careful when clearly it's not about winning, especially at 7, 8, 9-year-old. Now, if you have a child who's playing in college, and I work with a lot of college athletes, or the professionals, winning certainly takes on a different meaning. But ultimately, even through high school, in the high school years, whether they're 16, 17, 18, it's still much more important for them to have fun, be with their friends, and prove to be part of a team. And our ultimate goal is to create better athletes. Better athletes. But I get 2 claps. But I get 2 claps. So one of the questions I'm going to ask you now, and this is not a figurative question, I want you to think to yourself, are you or can you be or do you do things that a scoreboard, win at all cost parent does? Meaning, this is the kind of parent who focuses on the winning, focuses on what it means after the game, and that how the results of the game are much more important. Meaning, scoreboard parents focus on the results. Regardless of what happens in the play during the game, is it the win or the loss more important? Or what the score was, how many goals versus how many goals. You often compare your player towards others, whether it's another player on the team, or comparing their team towards another team. Are you a parent that gets upset when mistakes are made and often criticizes, maybe not yells, but focuses more on mistakes and mistakes not being okay? Are you kind of parent that sometimes humiliates the player to motivate? Now, it may not necessarily be humiliation as hard as it might be as a kid gets older, but kind of teases them in terms of what might happen at 6 or 7 years old based on their style. Maybe it's how they run. Maybe it's how they kick the ball, and you some kind tease them to help them, to maybe motivate them to get better, right? Or what a lot of parents sometimes do is use inappropriate language around sports. And that's a common thing, and how we treat players as if those kind of words are more acceptable in sports. Those are generally some of the qualities we find and we call a scoreboard parent. Now, I'm sure there's no scoreboard parents here today, which is why we're taking this action, because your kids are so young. The idea is help become a better parent in a certain way, but most importantly, create better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Can I get 2 claps? Can I get 2 claps? So what we say versus what we do. Most of us always talk to our kids about effort. We have said to our kids, we don't really care so much about the outcome, whether it's grades or the game. What we want to do is really for you to have fun. And do your actions match what you say? Do your actions match what you say in order to create better athletes? Better athletes. So go back to your top 3 goals, right? Do your top 3 goals reflect what really matters to you in sports? For some of those goals I put up there, for instance, winning in college scholarships, those are all things that are not in your control as a parent and not even in control for your player, and can sometimes create big challenges with how you communicate with your player. If your goal is for your child to be a professional athlete or get a college scholarship, everything you evaluate your child's effort on will be based on whether or not he or she will be good enough to get that. However, if your goal is to have fun, get better, make friends, improve, learn teamwork, those are all things that are in the control of the coaching staff and the player to help you get what you ultimately want, which is not only a better athlete, but also a better athletes,
Better leaders.
better athletes.
Better leaders.
And here's a very interesting statistic that I love sharing with parents. 70% of kids stop playing sports by the age of 13. And the number one reason why is because it's not fun anymore. And the 2 biggest groups that are responsible for fun for kids are parents and coaches. And research has proven kids who are involved in sports or in dance or in cheerleading or in drama or music and instruments, some other extracurricular activity, we know that kids have better social relationships, are more successful within the workforce, do better in school, do better academically, have greater interpersonal skills, and go on and live healthier lives. We know that, whether it's sports, dance, music, you name it. We do know that in corporate America, there's a lot of reference, not corporate America, corporate Mexico even, right? In the corporate world, that there's a big, strong focus on the idea of teams and teamwork. Companies often refer to their staff as being a team player or their team. And so it doesn't matter where you are in the world, the knowledge and understanding what it means to be part of a team is extremely influential into your skill set. And so if kids are dropping out by the age of 13, what kind of things are they doing instead of sports or instead of music and drama and dance? Often going back and playing what game? What's one of the most popular games kids play today?
Video game.
Fortnite. Anybody have kids who play Fortnite? Roblox, Minecraft. They spend more time in front of the computer and in front of a TV screen of some sort than getting out and doing something else extracurricular. So it's very important for us to create an environment and culture that allow kids to have fun and still want to play and compete to create better athletes,
Better leaders.
better athletes.
Better leaders.
And so what I talk about is something called parenting with pride. And it's a concept and topic that when I met with coaches was how they coach with pride. And when I met with players about how do you play with pride. And it's a philosophy that is research-based on number of elements of pieces, meaning we know that coaches care very much about their players, but how they communicate their players is very important. We have since learned that sports in particular, and I've learned a lot about San Roberto academics, sports is really a continuation, right? Of the field is a continuation of the classroom. They interjoin, they connect. That the coaches who are with your children and boys and girls and daughters and sons after school are just as much an educator to your players and your kids as the teachers are. That even though it may not appear that way, The classroom is not full of walls necessarily. The classroom is on a field or a court or a dance studio, and they are teaching them very valuable life lessons. They're teaching them character, and so coaches are honestly informal educators. And they do so, and they teach these kids using their sport. And so it impacts players. And of course, your players then come home and talk to you as parents. And how many times have you asked your child, and it happens as kids get older, you know, what'd you learn in school today, right? What's an often response a child will say, a 7, 8-year-old say, what did you learn in school today? What will they usually say? What?
Nothing.
Nada, nothing, right? Now, sometimes in sports, you say, what did you do in practice today? They'll say, we worked on our kicks, we worked on this. They're more inclined to talk to you about that because to them, they see that as being something of learning. They don't realize it's informal education. So what you can see with this diagram, parents really need to become partners with coaches. A lot of time, parents put an overwhelming amount of pressure on coaches, whether it's because of playing time, whether it's because parents believe they know more about the sports, whatever it might be, and the partnership's not a healthy partnership for coaches. I'm pretty certain I met a number of coaches, they care very deeply about those players, just as much as any teacher does in that school, in that classroom. And so we need to create this environment where we have what we call this community. What I'd like for each of you to do now is, as a parent, if you have multiple kids, that's fine. Pick one of your children and go back to a time in your own life when you were that age, the same age as your child, playing on a sports team. And if you weren't playing sports, some kind of extracurricular piece. But I'm going to focus primarily on sports. So go back to a time when you were your child's age and on a sports team. And I want you to recall what your record was. How many wins and how many losses did you have on that team? I'm going to give you a quick second to think about it. I'm going to ask Priska and Diana to ask that question. If anybody can remember what their record was, how many wins and how many losses on that team.
¿Quién se acuerda? Does anybody remember when you were your child's age, what the score was on your team? How many wins, how many losses? ¿Quién se acuerda? ¿Cuántos juegos ganados, cuántos juegos perdidos? Cuando tenías 6 años.
Bueno, aquí la idea es pensar en ustedes en la edad de sus hijos y en algún partido o alguna actividad deportiva que ustedes hicieron y si se acuerdan del resultado. No, pues ganamos 3-0 o perdimos 21, no sé, ¿verdad? Si alguien recuerda algún resultado que haya tenido mientras jugó deportes a la edad de sus hijos.
Resultados no, pero sí.
¿Alguien recuerda?
Pero no se acuerdan, ganamos 5-0.
O sea, el marcador, no en general.
El marcador.
So,
Nobody.
sorry.
Nobody.
How about you, Priska? Anybody?
No, they remember having lost or won, maybe, but they don't remember.
I remember. Thank you so much. Give yourselves 2 claps. 2 claps. Now what I want you to do is go back to that same team, same time frame, and think of a friend that you had on that team. Can all of you think of a friend on that team or a teammate that you did stuff with?
¿Pueden acordarse de algún amigo o que hicieron en su equipo?
You remember a friend on that team?
Sí. Yes,
Right.
Randy.
Priska,
Yes, they can remember.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that it's funny to think about memory. And I love talking to parents because we don't remember the record, the wins and losses. We don't remember the scores. What our memory does, now there might be some situations that were embedded in our mind, but what we do is remember the memory of our friends, the fun times, the things we did together, the in the car, what really happened after the game. They don't remember those things. And that's what this is really about. That sports, right, is really about building a sense of community, that you became friends with their parents. You met some of your best friends as parents. Your kids have those things. And we forget that in sports, that is what really matters the most. It's not the end result, is that sports brings together wonderful memories for your kids, the sport, as well as these life lessons, and most importantly, being part of a special community. Whether it makes sense or not, we're in the community building business and memory creating business for our kids, especially at this age. And how we behave and how we act impacts that overall experiences. I am somewhat confident when I work with kids, and I talked about the parents in the stands, they often get embarrassed by what their parents say and do. Parents, their best intention is to help them, but ultimately their memory is not as great in terms of what transpires. And I wanted you to remember when you were playing that for you, it wasn't about the wins and losses as much as about the friends and things you did together to create better athletes,
Better leaders.
better athletes.
Better leaders.
And I break down the word pride because pride is something that comes from within and a very unique formula. So P stands for performance, R stands for respect, I stands for integrity, D stands for determination, and E stands for excellence. And except for performance, it almost works together in terms of my acronym in Spanish. But the idea is that it's about desempeño, respeto, integridad, determinación, excelencia, right? Performance, respect, integrity, determination, excellence. It's a thought process that I use very clearly, and I'll let you know how it plays out in terms of how to have the mindset of parenting with pride. Because the ultimate goal we want you to walk out today is that you focus on one thing as a parent, life lessons. Lecciones de vida, life lessons. To create better athletes, So instead of after the game, quizzing our kid about their performance, finding a way to talk about the life lessons that were involved with that particular game of practice. Help them understand what it meant to involve the bigger picture as opposed to winning and losing. We've also discovered, when we did our work, that there's a difference between winning and competing. What I'd like for you to do real quickly is with your neighbor, I want you to discuss the difference between being a winner and being a competitor. What's the difference between winning and competing? Take a quick minute and have a discussion, and then I'm going to ask Diana and Priska to facilitate a quick discussion. Please go. The difference between winning and competing.
Okay, ¿cuál es la diferencia entre ser ganador o ser competidor?
So the difference between winning and competing.
Okay, el ganador depende de un resultado, o sea, conectado con un resultado, y el competidor con algo constante de desempeño. ¿Alguien más?
Entonces, Marco,
Competidor, yo pienso que es el que está enfocado tanto en ganar, sino en tratar como de dar lo mejor de sí.
Okay. ¿Estamos de acuerdo? ¿Por ahí atrás? Okay. Okay, we're ready.
So Diana, what's the difference between winning and competing?
Winning has to do with a sport, and competing has to do with effort, constant performance, and just being constant on what is happening.
All right.
In the game.
Right. We get 2 claps. 2 claps. Excellent. Priska, how about you on your side? What did you discuss?
Yeah, the same. Winning is just like focusing on the result, no matter what, and competing is the process that involves a lot more. The values that are involved when you're in the process of competing or during the game.
Excellent. 2 claps. 2 claps. Better athletes. Better athletes. So you're starting to get the hang of what we're talking about. Winning, right, is about the results. But what happens is we focus, if you win, that makes you a winner. Therefore, if you lose, that must make you a loser. And that's not the case. And we spend so much time on the fear of losing and the fear of making mistakes, which happens to be the biggest fear all of your players have as they get older. The fear of making a mistake, the fear of failure, which leads to fear of losing, because when you mess up, make a mistake, and lose, you're often yelled at. And we're trying to shift the focus, the concept of being a winner, to being a competitor, because a competitor is all about effort and the kind of effort you put into something. And when you focus on that, that allows players to feel, and kids, much more in control of who they are in terms of their skill set. And as we come to our final portion of our conversation, I like to talk about the to-dos and the to-don'ts, right? The to-dos and to-don'ts when it comes to parenting with pride. First things first is do focus on the big picture. Focus on the big picture. Do focus on what really matters. Not necessarily the specific game, not whether or not they messed up, but the great joy you get in allowing your child and you to participate in sports. And what I like to do, hey, they're up there on the stage. Good to see you. That's a nice little dance. By a show of hands, who would like to hear the 5 most important words you can share with your athlete when it comes to play? By a show of hands, who would like to learn those 5 important words? All right. What I'd like for you to do is repeat after me. I'll do it in English, then I'll do it in Spanish if I can figure it out. Actually, I might ask Priska and Diana to do the Spanish. I'll do it in English, right? Repeat after me. I love watching you play. I love watching you play. All right, Priska and Diana, my Spanish is not going to be so good, so if you could please do that for me.
Bueno, en español sería, me encanta verte jugar. Esas son las palabras más importantes que debemos decir a nuestros hijos. Me encanta verte jugar.
Those are well, actually in Spanish it's 4. That's funny. So in English it's 5, Spanish and 4. Those are the most important words you can say to your child after any game. My oldest is 23. I have a son who's 21. I have a daughter that's 12 and a daughter that is 9. I have a second chance, almost a do-over, when watching my kids play. We played a softball game last night against a team that was much better than us. We lost 21-4, and it really wasn't even that close. But the first thing I told my daughter when we walked off the field was how much I love watching her play, because she's 12, and then she's going to be 14 and 16, and before I know it, she's going to be done playing. I have no idea what's going to happen with her skill set as she gets older. All I know is that I have a chance to get to watch her play. And I want to understand the value of those words that you can use when you give it to your kid, when you say, I love watching you play. So focus on the big picture and say, I love watching you play. Here are the 2 don'ts. One of the biggest don'ts is please don't coach from the stands. I know it's hard, it's difficult. If you have a hard time and all you can do is coach, instead of screaming coaching, give yourselves an index card, a note card, or on your cell phone, and start to look for all the positive things you see that happen over the course of the game. Don't focus on the in the moment. Look at the players and how they're interacting, if they're high-fiving each other, if they're hustling, if they're smiling, if they're listening to their coach. Then share that list with your players in the car instead of doing all the discrimination, all the different focus, and all the mistakes. Do your best to not coach from the stands. It's frustrating for the coach, and the player has a very hard time because you might often say something different than what your child's coach says. So for instance, I'd like to share this video with you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, you guys ready?
I prefer that my parents, if I play bad, don't say anything. And if I play well, it doesn't really matter if they compliment me on how I play. I just I don't know, I prefer my parents to, not talk as much.
I can hear them like cheering me on, and I'm like thinking in my head, just shut it, I'm trying to focus.
My mom yells in Spanish, like, go, go, go.
My mom usually says, use the backboard. You should use the backboard. I get angry because it annoys me.
I'm kind of embarrassed. She tells me to get in the position that my coach told me not to get in. I'm like, well, no. And then she's like, get in your position. I'm like, no.
I get a little tense when I have a certain score to get, and she's like, you gotta get that whatever score. And I'm like, ah. I don't like it when they try to push me even more, even though I'm trying really, really hard.
Coming from the coach's mouth is kind of better, I feel like, because your parents are there to support you and your coach is there to help you, you know?
You just start screaming, Valentina, run faster, make a basket. But I just start going slower every time when she says that.
The other people were like, wow, that mom is like really wanting her kid to win.
In my inside, you can't see it, but I'm inside saying, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Sometimes I just look into space.
I try to listen to them and then do what they say to so they don't start yelling again. I don't really want them to give me that much advice because then I might forget it all. Sometimes I get nervous when they yell and nobody else is yelling.
Sometimes it can embarrass me, like a lot.
Wait. What's going on? We're just trying to do this, but you want us to try harder?
Well, I am.
I'm not going into a game not trying my hardest. That'd be like messed up.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Sometimes when they try to get the ball in basketball, you kind of think in your head that they're kind of like gonna push you and you're gonna fall and hurt yourself.
They don't need to always be telling me what to do every minute of the game. They kind of just gotta let me play.
I love when you say it really nice. I got it, Mom.
I'd like to look back and I'd like to see you smile or give me a thumbs up.
Mom, I wish you would be a little bit quieter. Say you play good and you couldn't get them next time.
When they smile and say good job.
Mom and Dad,
Thank you for loving me.
I love
Be my supporter.
when I'm upset, my mom and dad cheer me up.
Sometimes I forget about all the work that they do for me.
Be my biggest fan.
We need a lot of love. I want you to know
I need big hugs.
I love the snacks that you bring me. It makes me happy when you always encourage me.
Thank you, Mom and Dad.
Please just be my mom and dad. Yep, that's it.
So we have a very large movement of I love to watch you play. And those are kids from literally all across the world. And as you can see, those are some pretty young kids. They just want love and support, to be their biggest fan. And the other don't is please know PGA, what is called the post-game analysis. It's what happens on that car ride home. When we spoke to college athletes, we asked them the worst part about their youth and high school sports. The number one response, and overwhelmingly response, was the car ride home. What we hope that you do is, instead of criticizing and being feedback and negative and focusing on a mistake is the first thing you say is, I love watching you play. It was incredible. I love watching you play. Now, if you have a desire to speak with them about that, you can simply ask them, would you like to talk about the game? Ask permission. If they say yes, then talk about what they thought, how they viewed it, what they did, what they learned, as opposed to you pointing out all the things that you saw that were wrong. You can certainly point out things that were good, but allow them to first give you their perspective. If they say no, they don't want to talk, don't take it personally. Acknowledge and say, fine, no problem. If and when you're ready to talk, I'll be waiting for you. And again, allow them to share what they did and they saw, as opposed to you being specific on the negativity that what you found. There's no kid who plays sports or dances or performs on the theater, stage, and music, when they mess up, doesn't feel bad. As a matter of fact, no one feels worse than they do. But the idea is to help them look at the bigger picture and help them understand that mistakes are okay. And then in the end, that I love you, I love watching you play. And then we create better athletes,
Better leaders.
better athletes.
Better leaders.
Can I get 2 claps? Can I get 2 claps? And most importantly, let's understand what kids really want after the game. Ice cream. I guarantee it, if you choose to get ice cream or pizza or some kind of family or team event after the game, over the course of the time, they will remember getting ice cream, and that will be the routine, and that will be their memory, as opposed to the score. You might remember the score. You might remember the record, but I guarantee it, they will not. They will remember having ice cream with chocolate chips and sprinkles and different kind of goodies and cones, and the smiles that come along with how it feels to have ice cream. Because no kid, no matter how bad a game it might have been, or whatever happens, or parents can ever be upset when eating ice cream. Never. Ice cream makes everybody happy. Can I get 2 claps? Can I get 2 claps? Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Better athletes.
Better leaders.
So when you think about performance and what that means, what I want you to bring in your mindset as a parent is know that adversity provides growth. If they're struggling, if they have something that's hard or difficult, let them know that it's okay, that you are there to help them get through it, and that challenges are part of life. Do not be a helicopter parent that hovers. Do not be a snowplow parent who tries to remove the obstacles, because that will not allow your child to perform and grow as a person. Performance and doing the best you can, adversity provides growth. Respect. Create a positive mindset for your children and help them respect the rules, respect their opponents, respect the officials. Make sure you have your players, if the coaches don't, thank the officials for their effort. You as a parent thank them regardless of the outcome. Teach them how to respect their teammates and the players. Teach them how to respect themselves as a player and how they act and how they behave. Respect the coach. Do not denigrate or put down the coach in front of your players, or worse, put your player in between you and the coach. If for some reason there's some kind of situation that you deem necessary, have the courtesy and respect of the coach to deal with it directly in a matter that's fair, not after the game. Or if you really are overly emotional over an 8-year-old or 9-year-old game and you need an older person present, I'm sure one of the athletic directors and coordinators can be there to help. And finally, respect the spectators. They're there cheering their kids on the same as you. No different. Now, they might have a win-at-all-costs attitude, and what you will start to notice is just how funny it is to watch parents in that fashion, because they don't realize the biggest goal in life is to create better athletes,
Better leaders.
better athletes.
Better leaders.
Integrity is about accepting responsibility. Help your kids learn how to accept responsibility, not just in sports, but also in life. My daughter is 9 years old, and I usually help her get packed up for school in the morning. And just this morning on the way to school, she asked if I included one of her folders in her backpack, which I had not, and I felt badly. And I said, I'm really sorry. Bree, that I didn't pack it for you. She said, no, Dad, that's okay. It's really my responsibility to do so. I need to remember next time. That was a 9-year-old kid who understands the message we're trying to teach. It broke my heart because I'm like, oh man, but it provided a life lesson that she needed to learn in terms of integrity. Accept responsibility. When your players come off the field and they blame the coach, or they blame the official, or they blame the field or the weather, that's not accepting responsibility for their performance. That's placing blame. And those are things that are not in their control. D stands for determination. Understand that there are no mistakes, especially as kids grow and develop as athletes. If kids fear making mistakes, that's because they get yelled at mistakes. And so what I want to introduce to you is something called a mistake ritual, something you as parents can do with your kid when they make a mistake. One thing I do is something called flush it down, like you're flushing a toilet. And I use these 3 fingers when I do it. And I scream to my players, flush it, and the rest of the team responds down. So we're going to practice that real quickly. I will say flush it, you say down. Flush it.
Down.
Flush it.
Down.
Flush it.
Down.
And as they look at you, you can do this, flush it down. So you say, hey, move on, or snap out of it, or wipe it off. When it comes to soccer, basketball, baseball, hockey, any sport, the most important play is the next play. And we want our kids to understand that errors and messing up are part of playing. And you don't get better if you don't mess up. And so if coaches and parents are screaming at players and are helping them to go on to the next play about errors, they will become much more confident and have much less anxiety. So determination is letting them know that they can get what they want and learn from whatever goes on. And finally, excellence is about effort and attitude. There's no such thing as a lazy player. There's no such thing as a lazy student. It's all about priorities. Now, a student who may not put forth their best effort, it's not about being lazy. It may not be a priority. And so excellence all focuses on the 2 things in any player's control: effort and attitude. Are you giving your best attitude to give your best effort? It's performance, respect, integrity, determination, and excellence. And so what I want to do is compare side by side a scoreboard parent with a parenting with pride parent. A scoreboard parent focuses on results. A parenting with pride parent understands that adversity provides growth. When they mess up, that's actually a good thing. A scoreboard parent compares their player or teams towards others. A parenting with pride parent focuses on a mindset about respect and helping people and becoming a better person. A scoreboard parent says, wait, mistakes are not okay. A parenting with pride parent says, there are no such thing as mistakes, only learning opportunities. A scoreboard parent might use some kind of humiliation to motivate. A parenting with pride parent will accept responsibility and teach their kids to accept responsibility. A scoreboard parent will focus on inappropriate language or use words that are demeaning and hurtful. Whereas a parenting with pride parent will focus on their effort and attitude. Our research has proved that taking the parent with pride approach, when it comes to your child, their anxiety will go down and their self-confidence will go up. To create better athletes,
Better leaders.
better athletes,
Better leaders.
better athletes.
Better leaders.
Can I get 2 claps? Can I get 2 claps? Can I get 2 more? Better athletes.
Better leaders.
Priska, Diana, and all my wonderful friends at San Roberto School System, thank you so much for allowing me to be here and be part of your what is it, Wednesday morning. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Si alguien faltó de anotarse en las listas de asistencia,
Ok, pues muchas gracias por estar aquí. Esperemos que nos hayamos quedado con la idea de qué es lo que buscamos. Y finalmente digo que los tips pueden estar.
New Cupid, January 2nd, 2007. Time for a change.